So that's right here. So what we do now is we take our tape measure and we're gonna measure 15 millimeters from medially from our knee center. So we're gonna put a mark 15 millimeters away from our knee center, and we're gonna go 30 millimeters from our medial malleolus.
15 and 30?
15, so 15 millimeters and 30 millimeters. Okay? Now, what we wanted to do is to trace up into our perineum. So we've split the perineum in half, and we're going to use that as a fulcrum of our long yardstick to determine whether we're in varus or valgus. So if we hit the medial malleolus first, as we move this laterally, if we hit the medial malleolus first, medial malleolar mark first, we're going to be considered in varus. If we hit the knee first, we're in valgus. So I'm keeping this here as a fulcrum. We're moving medially, and in his case, we're hitting the 30 millimeter point, and here's the 15. So this is now our mid-sagittal line. I'm going to go ahead and mark that.
Question, how is normal though?
What is normal?
Why should we do
If it was normal, they would line up perfectly.
But even if you bring it at an angle, it's always going to hit. Okay, no, because no.
If they're in valgus, it's going to be hitting the knee first. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that, and we're going to measure everything on this line, and all of our heights and everything is going to be square to this line as well.
How did you the fulcrum?
It's the middle of the perineum is where it should be. Okay? So now we start measuring out all our height measurements. And so we're gonna go, and this is whether they're lateral, medial, it won't matter. So we're gonna mark out, we said 48 point, okay, there's one more thing we need to do. Before we do that, we said everything is gonna be at a right angle to our mid-sagittal line, right? Is my floor perpendicular to my mid-sagittal line right now? No. So we want to have the floor also perpendicular to our mid-sagittal line. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the middle of the heel, and at that point, so if I look at my heel, say the width of my heel, I want to be in the middle of it. I'm going to not go by this drawing, but I'm going to go by the tracing, because this we did later when we had them sit down, remember? So basically the middle of the heel, somewhere about here, I'm going to make sure that's the middle of our floor. Okay? And now this is our new floor, which is perpendicular to our mid-sagittal line. So see, that dropped that about 1/4 of an inch. So if we hadn't done that, everything would be off 1/4 of an inch. Okay? So now let's start measuring out all our measurements. We'll start first one.
How different is that line from the talocrural joint axis?
Talocrural?
Yeah.
It depends on what you did with your talocrural. Or no, our talocrural axis is right here.
Oh.
Right?
Sorry. Higher.
So this is the floor, and this is the mid-sagittal. So now we're going to start marking off our heights. So we said 8 millimeters or 8 centimeters to our malleolus. Mark that. We're going to go up to our next one was 44.6. Well, let's go to actually the one we want is the fibular neck. Fibular neck was 45. So our fibular neck is right here. And our joint center, we said before, was knee center.
48.3.
48.3. We mark that, 48.3 right here. Okay. And then we're going to mark where's our proximal band going to be? What's the height of our medial upright? Remember?
3 to 5.
So it's going to be 5 centimeters below perineum. So we have our perineum here, which was, it was measured at 88.5. See, we're a little high there now, so this is 88.5? 88.5 is right. Whoa, that's way up here. So we're gonna go down 5 from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here. So this is the height of my medial band. Okay. Clear so far? You're measuring all your heights on the mid-sagittal line. The other one, where our bands go, are gonna be calculated from these different points. So what was our, if we do our calf band, what was our calf band? Remember?
5 centimeters from.
2 centimeters distal to our fibular neck, right? So just check, yeah, it's 2 centimeters from our distal neck, so let's mark 2 centimeters distal, which is right here. So this is our proximal calf band. So let's go ahead and start marking out our squares. So we're gonna make a perpendicular line on each of these marks. So this is our ankle joint center as it is right now. It may adjust a little bit later. This was our knee center. Let's go ahead and mark that one all the way across. Our neck of our fibula. The top of our calf band. Here's a simple little trick. The width of this is the width of our calf band, so now we've got the distal end of our calf band. Okay? Do we do a straight line at the proximal calf band?
No.
15 degrees off of there, right? Okay, so we could do that if we want.
What's the thickness of that? An inch and a half?
This is 1.5 inches, yeah. So we're gonna go 90 plus 15. 1, 2, 15. I'm gonna go the other way.
You gonna need more paper?
May. We'll see when we do our widths. So again, that one is 1.5 inches wide, so we can just use our. Okay. Now, do you remember where our distal thigh band goes?
5 centimeters.
Between the center and the proximal calf.
So we're gonna go from our knee center to proximal calf band. And that is 5.3.
There we go.
So we're gonna go 5.3 above, and that's the distal edge of our calf band, so we're gonna draw a perpendicular line there. Seems really weird positioning, but that's what the measurement says. So that's the distal edge, and this is the proximal edge of our calf band. So now we have everything drawn out for our bands are going to be placed. So the next thing to do is to determine our MLs at these points. And so we're going to measure across everywhere we have an ML, and we're going to check and see what our measurement is as compared to our drawing. This is where we're correcting. So let's start at our malleoli. Now at the malleola, apex of malleoli.
Which line do we use as fixed? The medial or the lateral?
You're gonna end up splitting the difference usually, unless they're pretty symmetrical. So ML in this case was the same as the height, which is 8 centimeters.
Instead of like 1 centimeter.
Okay, so my ML drawn is like 7.3. So I want to make it 8. So halfway between there. So, well, half of 7 is 3.5, right? And what's half of 8?
I don't know.
4.15. You said 8, you said 7.3. Oh, it's just
So, some of these you probably wanna do with a pencil or a pen, just a regular pen. So that's our width of our malleoli. We're gonna go up, remember you did MLs at the top end, the distal end and the top side of your calf band, so we're gonna measure those out, 13.4 and 13.7. So, see, mine are consistently showing a little bit narrow. What's 12.5 divided by 2 is 6.25.
to the.
And we've got 13.4 divided by 2 is what?
Dennis, what is it?
What?
13.2?
13.4 divided by 2?
Oh, calculator, folks. What is it?
Just a point.
Oh.
6.6, okay.
Gas, the intuition and intuition.
13.5.
I think it's more.
Oh, my church? I didn't know.
About right.
I heard 14.4.
Okay, our next one is 13.7.
Wait, are you?
What's the half of 13?
Eight for
What was it?
When they said I felt like it again.
6.7 divided by 2?
What?
13.7 divided by 2.
Hmm?
6.85.
This, and also the.
The way.
850324.
Professor Michael, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
In general,
Uh-huh.
what is the more reliable? Or
In this one, you were measuring to, hopefully not compressing. It's gonna be more accurate. I would
That's what I'm
prefer
wondering.
measuring over my drawing because they can just shift a little bit while you're doing it.
what about
Prosthetics? Okay. ML at the knee. 13.2. That one is pretty close.
13.2.
So we're going and correcting all of these. And our distal band is 14. That's what it should be. Okay, the top edge of the distal band is 15. Okay. And then our last two are gonna be the proximal thigh band. Let's see, proximal thigh band, the width at the distal edge was 19.8. Let's see, right now we're at this. What is half of 22.5?
13.5.
And half of 19.8.
11.25, Matt. 11 plus 2.
I was like, oh my he's like just got in here, he's wiping it
I
out.
added the decimal to like.
And then I was like, oh shit, I can see, but then I was like, no, I'll just finish my bones. And I was like, okay, okay, I'll do it.
9.9 is
Half the time right on that hand, but you wouldn't look at 18 and 18.
You need to do the decimals. What?
And our last one is
No fraction of decimals.
20.3.
I trust you.
That's it.
I think it's you more than anybody else.
Half of
I see
our,
mid.
Right.
half of 23.
No, I've read into
Oh, I was like,
square
dang.
this circle.
23.
Oh, they're no.
10.1.
I trust it. Do you live or do you train? How do you live?
Oh,
Yeah, and then
Well,
20.
I tried.
Half of 20.3.
23.5, 10.15.
Try, cause I mean, I'm so serious. So many numbers.
I got 11.7.
So,
Wait.
I've been doing a lot of
No, he
stuff.
said 20.3, not
Oh,
23.
thank you.
Okay, so you can see
Was it 23 or 20.3?
20.3, well, 23 was first, was the actual width that was drawing, so I was getting the middle of it.
I am deeply offended.
Okay,
I'm about 4.
so if we look at these, we can redraw this now. There's a couple ways of doing this. Sometimes I'll actually cut, if you have a nice, everything is about the same amount off, you can just cut it and move the whole thing over, or you can redraw it. And we've split the difference, so I can take, so this is where our proximal band should be right here. And I can take that and connect to this point here. Let's start connecting these. This comes like this, goes to the knee, which was okay. And then I can go like this. So that's a corrected one there. We come to the knee center. Remember our medial was, our calf band was a little bit farther out. I'm gonna go to there. And then we're going to try to keep this contour going and that goes to the malleolus
So try to follow a contour as much as possible?
as much as possible going to your connecting the dots.
Why wouldn't, I mean, why could we just do like straight lines?
No, because
I mean, as long as it's not touching the leg, I mean, wouldn't it be the same support?
you
or
want to
would it-
keep, when you do your measurement, you want it to be about 2 millimeters away from your legs where your upright's gonna be. So.
Just draw a
Okay.
straight line from the calf down.
And this goes to our
It's not
knee.
gonna be touching her anyway.
There. This one comes in.
Straight line.
Okay,
Mine's gonna be-
so that's ready to go.
That's it.
So do we do anything about this perineum, or do we just?
Just for your,
Okay.
determining your mid-sagittal line. So now from here, the best thing to do is to trace that out in the black. Because one thing we need to do now is reverse this. We're gonna flip it over. Because this was his left leg. And the stirrup has to be facing down because our bands are on the back side of our leg. So we have to do everything the opposite direction. So once I use the marker, it'll transfer through the other side. If you don't have that, you can use a window and trace it that way, or you can use a wheel that has little points on it and just run it along, and then that'll transfer over to the other side. But with this thinner paper, we can just do this and
Where do you say it's left wing?
With the sloppy professor.
what?
Sloppy line work.
You know, bias.
He does your grades, man. He does your
10 out of
grades.
10 would recommend.
Sit on the arm.
Got a color inside the line.
That's great. Enjoy it. Yay.
Let's do my dad. 'Cause see. Are you on second time? Did you go to sleep? You on second time, right? 16? Yeah. That's right. Oh, yeah.
Okay. The only other thing we would add at this point, if we had it, was the thickness of our sole, which we would add down to here, which is gonna tell us where the bottom of our, or the, where the edge of our stirrup is gonna be later. But since we don't have a shoe yet, we're gonna leave that for now. Just flip it over, you see the lines coming through. We'll just go ahead and redraw these, so they're nice and dark. And we will have corrected our schematic and we'll be ready to start contouring.